world is very mysterious. After spending years in the desert working on America's most top secret technology, I got bored. Can you believe it? Being bored of such things? Yeah, and I wanted to go back to California, and I landed a job at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Vandenberg is located not too far from Santa Barbara, a very beautiful place. The coast is very nice around here, and I spent a few years out there. From this strategic location on the west coast, intercontinental ballistic missiles can be safely tested over open waters. In addition, military satellites can be launched into polar orbit from this strategic location by launching southward over open waters. A few years ago, the name actually changed to Vandenberg Space Force Base after the creation of the Space Force. They actually have a half-decent web page with some photos and information if you're interested. As an electrical engineer, the most exciting part of my job was to go up to the telemetry site and assist with all the instrumentation, make sure the signals are okay, etc. And it was exciting, but it got tiring because all the launches while I was there were at night, and it's kind of hard to change your sleeping patterns. Here's some photos from early in the morning after we waited the whole night to launch. I was so upset. It was like one delay after another. Oh wait, the weather's bad in Kwajalein, Marshall Islands. Oh wait, no, there's some ship out there. Oh wait, the winds. Oh wait, something is wrong. We don't have a system up. So, yeah, very frustrating. I will never go back to the space industry. It sounds exciting from a distance, but when you actually work, it's kind of boring. At the time, I was wondering, why did God lead me out here, I had reached the pinnacle of my career, and then I just lost my way, and I ended up out here. And little did I know what God had in store for me, because working out here, I began to think about certain things like the shape of the earth.
Yeah. Oh, eagles?
Huh?
Come out here. So this is looking north.
Wow.
That's the north base there, right?
Yeah.
So we're launching from way out there.
Watching a rocket launch can be quite exciting.
Item 127, missile suspension released. Item 128, launcher closure door open. Item 129, first stage ignition to missile.
Payload is delivered way out in the Pacific, 4,800 miles away in the Kwajalein Atoll, in the Marshall Island. Here's a re-entry vehicle piercing through the clouds and splashing down. It's kind of exciting. During downtime, when no test was going on. My boss wanted us to learn everything we could about the missile. He was very passionate about it. So I was looking to a lot of documentation, and there's a lot online. Everybody knows how intercontinental ballistic missiles work, And he wanted us to really appreciate the system. But I began to wonder a little bit about the shape of the Earth. Look at this graphic, how they depict kind of flat areas on the left and right of the North Pole. And, slowly the seeds of curiosity were planted in my mind. And then I started wondering about the guidance system, and I started to develop a little bit of appreciation. This is a very old system, I think 40, 50 now, maybe older, and I was impressed at the accuracy. I was wondering, how it can be so accurate when you travel so far around the world. The gyro-stabilized platform, which you see in the upper part, is quite fascinating. It's high precision. It's like a jewel, unbelievable. And I was amazed at how they, tried to minimize friction and all this other things that can affect the precision. Very interesting. But one thing that bothered me was there is hard stops in the gimbals, as you can see, and you cannot have this thing rotating too much, and that always bothered me. But it wouldn't be until many years later when I really began to understand the flat Earth. You see, the shape of the world is of strategic importance, and they don't really want us to wake up to this new reality. After air travel became a common occurrence, maps like these became very useful. Here is the air map of the world. It is an azimuthal projection centered on the North Pole. And if you read in the upper left corner, it's very interesting what they have to say. The airplane has redrawn the map of the world. It has changed its size and shape, made us look at the world from a new viewpoint. In this presentation, we'll take a look at the world from a yet new perspective, that of the intercontinental ballistic missile and targeting upon the flat Earth. Yes, my friends, things are very, very strange out there. Yep, we are in the space age, and believe it or not, the rotation of the Earth has a lot to say about its shape. To achieve a successful strike with an intercontinental ballistic missile, the intended target must be hit. Now, this requires an understanding of the map and its movement, because the strike is not instantaneous. From the time the missile is launched, time passes. Here we see that about 20 minutes elapse after launch. The missile travels roughly 15,000 miles per hour, and it travels out to the Kwajalein Atoll about 5,000 miles away. And so in that time, the Earth's surface moves. And all these factors need to be taken into account. Now, you may be wondering why they launch out there. Well, that's the Ronald Reagan test site out there, the middle of the Pacific, and they are scoring the accuracy of the ICBM. And all that stuff is classified. I don't want to get into any classified work, but these are the basics of targeting. You want to know where you hit, you want to know the movement, and you want to compensate for that movement while you're in flight. And it's no different than an airplane flying from, let's say, LA to New York. I've been up in the air a lot, and I noticed how the airplanes were banking, but that's a topic for another day. Here we're going to deal with this fast moving missiles that traverse large distances rapidly, or fairly rapidly. The fastest is radio propagation, and we will look at that in the future because that also has flat Earth written all over it. Now, these ICBMs are picked randomly from the active bases up north, I mean, they're on standby, and you kind of wonder, if you never fire your gun, you don't know if it's going to work when you fire it or if it's still accurate. So, they have this testing program where they randomly pick a missile and they ship it down to Vandenberg and reassemble it and put some instrumentation package on it and fire it off, that's really the mission that I worked. I believe they're called glory trips. And Popular Mechanics has a really great article on all the nuances and the different facilities, etc. Pretty cool. But there is a problem here. Taking the rotation of the Earth and, the time and the position of the Kwajalein Atoll, it rotates about 350 miles to the east. Because viewed from the top, the Earth rotates in a counterclockwise direction. And so, by the time the missile reaches the Kwajalein Atoll would have shifted by 350 miles to the east. So we need to aim to the east. But there's a problem that I discovered, and it really bothered me. Here's what the problem is. The problem is the fact that the missile does not follow the red line, but the yellow line that I've drawn there, and it flies right over Hawaii. Wow! That was a shocker to me, and we have tight corridors over Hawaii, and if the missile veers off due to a malfunction, they can blow it up if they deem it to be a danger. And on one of the missions, actually, that happened, So I know for a fact it flies over Hawaii, but when I plot it on a globe, right, or on these maps, you see that curved line because it assumes you live on a globe, But those in the know, especially in the intercontinental ballistic missile world, they say otherwise. In a future presentation, I will show you how that works with aircraft. I've been up in the air a lot, and I've done simulations of how the Earth rotates. And so even an airplane, it's like a missile in the air. Let's say you leave New York and you head for Los Angeles. And if you aim at Los Angeles at the time when you leave, by the time you get there, Los Angeles is gonna be somewhere else, and you won't hit it. You'll hit somewhere, up north or in the Pacific. And I'll show you all the kinematics of how that works, I was going to put it in this presentation, but decided to keep it short. There's a little exciting things out there, my friends. And, God has led me from one thing to another and opened my mind, We're not the first and we won't be the last. This awakening will continue. There's mysteries. The flat Earth is embedded into so many calculations and systems. A while ago, a friend of mine that worked on avionics, when he heard that I was fascinated with the flat Earth, told me that, hey, do you know that certain avionics have to be reset after you cross the equator? So anyway, what people call the Great Circle, which supposedly proves you're on a globe is an optimum path in a rotational frame of reference projected on the ground. Okay? And so because the Earth rotates, when you travel from point A to point B, you take a certain path which is optimum in terms of time and rotation of the surface. Very fascinating. I'll delve into that some more later in a different presentation. Shortly after realizing that the shape of the Earth may not be what we've been taught in school, I started paying attention to some of the flat Earth debate on online forums, and I saw this map, square and stationary map of the Earth. And, I had a problem with not only the shape. Obviously this image, if you assume straight line propagation, is erroneous because you're looking out towards Antarctica, you should be able to see it, But I didn't realize at the time that light actually bends and is refracted, but the stationary part really bothered me, I thought, what's wrong with this flat earthers? Are they high school dropouts? Like, oh my God, everybody knows the Earth is rotating, And look who's talking now, right? But anyway, I wanted to get on some forums and tell people that, hey, the focal pendulum is used to prove the rotation of the Earth, and gyroscopes. I worked on the intercontinental ballistic missile, and before they launch it, they have to let the missile, I guess they use the word soak, but anyway, the gyro-stabilized platform has to stabilize because I believe it's slightly dampened. So as the Earth rotates, I guess they let it do that for a few days. It slowly stabilizes, and the gyroscopic axis aligns with the true rotation vector of the Earth, And then once, that alignment has occurred, then you can, launch it. And so I was, I had no doubts that the Earth rotates, but I seen a lot of flat earthers. They kind of throw out this stationary, maybe it comes from the Bible. I don't know. And I'm a Christian. I believe in the Word of God, But maybe, so this fascinated me. So I wanted to look at the focal pendulum because I had an idea. I said, wait a second. We can use the rotation of the pendulum to show whether in the southern hemisphere it rotates the other way or not. So I said, that's a no-brainer. You go in the southern hemisphere, the focal pendulum ought to rotate the other way, because you're underneath. And I started looking for focal pendulums. I started doing searches for images, and we can tell a lot from images, as you can see here. The pendulum is fixed in its inertial frame of reference. That's the idea behind this apparatus. And the surface of the Earth rotates, okay? And as you can see, the pendulum knocks down these pegs, and it started where it's noted there. I actually annotated this image. It starts there. So that point was once in front here where the pendulum is at, and the Earth's surface rotates in a counterclockwise direction, as seen from the top. Okay, and also you can see in the back it also knocked down those pegs. Okay, and so we can tell the rotation of the surface at the particular location where this pendulum is at. Okay, and what I found out really shocked me, folks. When you search for images of pendulums in the northern hemisphere, a lot of results come up. Everybody puts those pegs or dominoes so the pendulum can knock them down. You have no problem finding images, it's very easy. But if you go to the southern hemisphere, you're really hard-pressed to find an image with dominoes set up. And that really spooked me. When I first realized what was going on, I had goosebumps. I would search every evening after coming home from work for a month or so. I tried searches in Spanish, and I couldn't find a single image where they put down, dominoes. And I became very, very intrigued by that. This graphic illustrates what I was after. So if we live on a globe, and here I flatten it just so we have a better understanding here. If we're up in the northern hemisphere, and the rotation is as shown, we can see where the dominoes begin to be knocked down, where it says start. Now in the southern hemisphere, it would be the same if viewed from this angle from which I've drawn the graphic. But if we are actually there and we're upside down, we're looking down at this focal pendulum from the bottom of this image, or from the top. To us it seems like we're looking down from the top on the pendulum, and so the directions are reversed to what we're seeing. And so this is a way to test whether the southern hemisphere is really tucked underneath the earth, or whether it is an outer edge to the flat earth, as we've seen those maps. And the lack of images, wow, just really shocked me. That's the first time that I really sensed the conspiracy. Here it was on the internet. I couldn't find images. There is something wrong with the shape of the earth. Either that or focal pendulums don't work as advertised. This supposedly is the original pendulum, somewhere in Paris, I think. I've had these images for a while because I was writing a book, but I think that's what that is. But in the southern hemisphere, you're hard-pressed to find focal pendulums, And one of the images that really intrigued me was this one. Here we see some military officers, and they're looking at this pendulum. I got really intrigued. I said, wow, do these people know something? They would have to know, And notice they don't put dominoes down, I went to universities, I went to science center in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, all these places. I went to Australia, and once in a while you find a document at some university and you think, oh, this is it, look, they got pendulums, they got dominoes down. And when you read it in more detail, you realize they're showing you an image from some focal pendulum in the northern hemisphere. Oh my goodness, after months of searching, I got so frustrated, but also spooked by all this. And that's when I really started to believe there is a conspiracy that is hiding the flat earth. Now, there is no shortage of focal pendulums in the southern hemisphere. Like this one in Chile. They're even outdoors putting glass, But nobody puts down dominoes, They're closed up. But after much searching, I finally found a pendulum where they actually had dominoes set up, and I was overjoyed, my friends. There is an old saying that if you seek, you shall find. And after much searching, I finally found an image from the Wollongong Science Center and Planetarium in Australia. you know? And look at the image. You see, they put down dominoes, and there is the weight, and we can see how the dominoes were knocked down, you know? And there I labeled the rotation, the apparent rotation of the pendulum, but the rotation of the surface of the Earth is the opposite way. So here in the southern hemisphere, we see that the surface is rotating in the same direction. Wow, that just blew me away. I jumped up and I was so excited. I went and told my wife, I said, you won't believe this. The Earth is flat. Then the light bulb went on and I realized all the other pendulums show us the way it's rotating. Why is that? Because of the way it is numbered. Look at the numbering on the floor, you know, on the dial there. It's in a clockwise direction. So as the surface rotates away, the numbers increase, you know. So I was really excited. I realized, oh my goodness, in the southern hemisphere we have the same rotation of the surface as in the northern hemisphere. Wow, that was just too exciting. So I started writing a book, focal pendulums, the flatter surface, ICBMs, etc. And I still need to sit down and finish that book. But anyway, if you like these kinds of presentation and you've enjoyed this presentation, let me know and I may do more. I am loaded with information, and I'm awake now to this wonderful new mystery of the shape of the Earth. And I have so many experiments planned on Coriolis effects and other things, you know. Everywhere I've looked, I just see the flat Earth. I worked in the space industry as well, some satellites, infrared imagery from space, and UFOs and stuff. I've had quite a career. I remember many years ago I was working in a skiff, and it was around the time when the fake moon landing topic came up, and there was a guy there that was saying some interesting things. I'll do a video on that. And there was this other guy that had worked for the CIA and had so many people under him, military career, and he happened to be living in the same apartment building where I was at. So I started talking to him, and he would kind of drop hints once in a while of very interesting stuff, you know. I was a young engineer at the time, and anyway, later on I actually made it to places that he had been to and seen things he had seen. So the world is very mysterious, and all this stuff is kept behind closed doors, you know, under the banner of national security, you know. But sooner or later people will wake up and demand answers, you know. And if you come out and reveal the technology we have, which is electromagnetic in nature, then the next question is, well, what are you doing with this aircraft? Where are you going? Can you go into space? You know, so one thing leads to another, and then pretty soon they're asking questions. What do you have on the moon? You know, and so they're not acknowledged. They're kept behind, and we're using this ancient, chemical reactions to go into orbit. And there's a certain class of vehicles out there that who knows if they're ever gonna acknowledge these things, but people take photos of it. I've seen a number of them myself. Someday I'll tell you when I came face to face with a flying saucer and around the military base at night, and I was super scared, totally silent and hovering. I have so many stories like that, you know. but that's for another time. So anyway, thanks for watching, folks. Leave a comment if you feel like it. Make sure you like the video, and thanks for your prayers. Starting to feel much better now. I dodged another bullet. I was very sick, and anyway, hope to see you guys again in my next video. Take care, everyone.